Kicking up dust on a rick house floor. Charred oak whispers we can't ignore. Stories in the mash, fire in the grain. Raise up your glass, feel that bourbon flame. We're the bourbon legends, let the spirit flow. From the backwoods stills to tonight's big show. Every drop a story, every sip that's drowned. We're bourbon legends, let's throw it down. Let's throw it down. From Kentucky hills to the neon lights, we're talking small batch days and whiskey nights. Tasting the past in every pour. Gonna carve our names on the distiller's door. We're the bourbon legends, let the spirit flow. From the backwoods stills to tonight's big show. Every drop a story, every sip that's drowned. We're bourbon legends, let's throw it down. Let's throw it down. Raise 'em high, feel the fire. Clinking glasses, lifting higher. One more toast to the ones before and the legends we're making forevermore. We're the bourbon legends, let the spirit flow. From the rick house walls to your front row. Every drop a story, every sip a crown. We're bourbon legends, come gather round. Come gather round. Come gather round.
Good evening, everybody out there in YouTube land. This is the Colonel Craig Sanders, Colonel Craig M. Bowden. Sorry, the Bourbon Santa, coming to you live from Arkansas tonight, where the weather has turned warm. Yeah, I think spring is going to be here before you know it. I saw a little thing on YouTube today where it was showing leaves, like when leaves on trees start to bud out, and the Gulf Coast is way ahead of schedule, and actually up in Kansas and Missouri is ahead of schedule, and Arkansas is just right on time. So you never know, but I'm just wondering. Put in the comments if you guys do you guys plant a garden? Because I'm in that mode right now where I'm getting all these seed catalogs, and I've got some tomato plants planted, and I'm getting ready to plant my potatoes and different things like that. So tell me in the comments if you guys like to garden. Speaking of a gardening guy, I don't think Will is a gardening guy, but I think he likes the produce that comes from a garden.
Well,
Will? Welcome, Will.
hey, Craig, Colonel M. Bowden, Craig, Colonel Bourbon, Craig Santa, Colonel. We got to figure out how that's supposed to go. So that's a funny thing, gardening. I do greatly enjoy the produce that comes from the garden. And actually, I do enjoy gardening, but I don't really have anywhere to do it right now, nor do I have the time.
Yeah, you're working a lot of shifts right now, aren't you?
6 days a week, 10 hours a day minimum. So, yeah, a little busy around here.
Yeah, and then you have people like Roger Randall who I think he's skipping the damn country tonight, and retired, and just can go do whatever he wants to do.
Something about some anniversary or some stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Anniversaries, I mean, for me, it's just a date, and it just kind of comes and goes.
Well, you've had 30 of them, so.
Yeah. Well, I'm only on 26. Tracy says she likes to garden, but work gets in the way. Yeah. And gardening is a lot of work too, Tracy. I mean, especially if you have to get out there and hoe the garden by hand or whatever. Oh man.
Mm-hmm.
Especially down here in the South where it gets so hot and humid, it's just nasty. My garden usually looks really good until I take a vacation, and then when I get back, like you can be gone for a week and it just flushes out
Yep.
with weeds.
Well,
Terrible.
and you're talking about everything starting to bud out early. You know what that means? If everything's budding out early, we're going to have that March cold snap that's going to freeze and kill everything.
Well, you're right. And I know this last weekend when we were heading down to our bottle share at Rusty's house. Boy, you get south of Little Rock, there was a lot of trees budded out, even compared to where it is right here, right now. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it might be a tough year for peaches, blueberries, and all those late winter or early spring, I guess you'd say, blooming vegetables. Then that blackberry winter comes in and gets you. And
And I
also
just,
we're in a drought. I mean, we need some rain.
yeah, we do. Yeah, we're pretty low on water here in the state. So even
Even
though with
though
the snow and 4 inches of rain a couple weeks ago, we're still well below normal.
well below normal, and as soon as you get ready to plant your garden, it'll rain 20 damn inches, or right after you plant your garden,
Yep.
it'll rain. But speaking of, last year I planted a whole garden's worth of corn. Remember that? And I went out to pick it, and the squirrels and oh my God, ate every damn bit of it. So we're gonna do a little fun tonight. We're gonna drink whenever we hear the word corn. Okay?
Okay.
Because what's that country song? Something about rain makes corn, corn makes whiskey, whiskey makes my baby frisky, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
something
just
like
want to
that.
take a. I got to take care of a personal note here. Brian, I see you're in the chat. I've got your box ready to go. I've just been too lazy to ship it out. So just so you know.
That happens a lot. I mean, it's easy to give something away. It's a lot harder to actually get it shipped out. I've found that.
Well, I mean, I've got it boxed up. The box is taped up. Everything's ready to go, and I've just been too lazy to print a label. That's how bad I've gotten lately.
Yeah, I know. I get it. I get it. I'm glad that I finally did get the box out to Mike Brock. So Mike wanted to taste the volunteer our pick, which, by the way, tomorrow is the last day that you can order a bottle, and then it's gonna be
Sadly,
gone like yesterday. So Mike, drink that up, let us know what you think. But first,
first.
we're going to talk about some new releases before we bring on our guest for the night. Starting out, we're talking about the 10-year, this year's model of the 10-year Michter's Bourbon. Will, do you have this bottle or a bottle of this product?
I do not have a bottle of Michter's 10-year, and oddly enough, I'm actually drinking Michter's tonight, but I'm drinking the small batch Michter's. So, I need to break down and buy one of these 10 years. Everybody raves about them. I've had samples before. They're good, excellent bottle. I've just been too cheap to buy one.
Tracy loves it. I found it very hard to find. I could find the 10-year rye, but I can't talk bad about Roger, because Roger did secure me a bottle about a month or so ago from 107. But it's not this year's batch, but I haven't tried it yet. But I know a lot of
Well,
people really like it.
at this point, I don't know if it matters if it's this year's batch or last year's batch. I probably just need to get one to have in the bar, right?
Might as well. I mean, it is an expensive pour, but
Yeah. But it's a very good pour, and I've tasted the rye too. And Larry, you are correct. The rye is absolutely delicious.
the rye is very good. I know there's a rye's resurgence.
Mhm.
There's some good ryes out there right now.
But you know what about that rye? It's not made with corn. Let's go ahead and get this started.
Well, now Well, that's not necessarily true.
Well,
I
for this
believe, I
case, it is.
believe, I believe there are some ryes out there that do use a small percentage of maize. We have to be real careful what we say because we don't want any bad decisions to happen tonight. If you know what I mean.
That's right. Well, that's why I started out with the Michter small batch because I believe it's a pretty low proof. What is it? Yeah, 91.4. So I'm pretty safe with that.
Yeah, I started out with a Michter's Toasted. It's somewhere in that range, I believe.
Yeah.
Now, something that I like to collect, and I like to drink it too, but for some reason I collect it. Don't really know why, but it's kind of my thing now. And it's the Bookers. And this middle section here, if you will, the orange label or the brown
Mhm.
label, that's the second offering that they're delivering out pretty much. I think it may be this weekend is when it drops. I can't remember for sure. Now, don't read all these things about 7 years, 9 months. That's all just gobbledygook that they put on there for the label purposes. But this one is called the milkshake batch.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly it is like drinking a peanut butter milkshake.
Huh.
What I've
Interesting.
been hearing, there's a lot of hype on this bottle. So
I may have to keep my eyes open for that one. And I've gotten into Booker's. I've sampled Booker's over the last couple of years and enjoyed every one I've sampled. And I've got 1, 2, and 3 from 2025. I'm going to pick up a 4 just here whenever I go back to the store, and I enjoy them quite a bit. So
I haven't picked up any this year, so I'm already behind because they had the bourbon, the big easy batch. Tracy likes Bookers. Hey, Tracy, you like everything. What are you talking about?
is there a bourbon Tracy doesn't like?
Oh yeah, I bet there's something out there. But see, Jim Beam is so peanut forward, so I think it's bless you. It's fitting that they have a peanut butter milkshake, if you
I mean,
will.
that's actually when I first saw the label and said milkshake batch, I'm like, okay, where are they going with this? But now that you say it tastes like a peanut butter milkshake, yes, that makes perfect sense.
Well, no, I'm not saying that it tastes like a peanut butter milkshake. I'm just saying they call it the milkshake batch. But Jim Beam is so noted to be peanut butter forward or peanut forward. I'm saying I wonder if it is a
Oh.
peanut butter milkshake.
Well, I mean that would be very good if it was. We'll just have to get one and try it.
I think we're going to have to do that. I know I'm going to
And
get one.
Tracy says she doesn't like Amberana anything, and I agree 100% with that.
Now I'm going to have to disagree with you guys because last week, the or week before last, the RD1 Amber on it is pretty solid. You don't like it? Okay. Hey, it's opinions, right?
Mm-mm.
Nobody has to like everything.
So I will say this: the RD1 Amberana was the best Amberana I've had, but I still don't like it. I just don't. I just
The
don't.
Larry's talking about the Bookers, the 2404 and the 2502. I can't remember which batches those actually were, what the names of them were.
I can't remember if no 2503 is Jimmy's batch. That one was probably the best one from last year, from what I've been
Yeah,
told.
I like Jimmy's batch. There's Justin. Hey guys. Hey folks, if you guys are not on Justin's podcast, it's The Real Share. Roger says it's Shaw, but I know it's Share because I go down to New Orleans all the time. We're going to be on Justin's show podcast next Tuesday night. It'll be Roger, myself, and Will on their show. So be sure and tune in. Justin, tell me what time that is again, if you don't mind, and we'll put that out there. That's Real Share. It's Shaw, SHA, but do you not pronounce it like Share? Like, if I could turn back time. 7 p.m., Justin says. 7
Oh boy.
p.m. Central Time. Jump on. All right, we need to move
I'm
on here.
yeah. Let's go.
All right, here's something I'm very, very, very interested in, and that's Hard Truths. I believe this comes out tomorrow. No, to Saturday. and it is a celebration of 7-year hard truths. So you have the sweet mash rye, you have the wheated bourbon, and you have just the regular bourbon, all aged 7 years. That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, I bet that'll be pretty good stuff. I've got the sweet mash bourbon that Hard Truth does, and I really enjoy it quite a bit. So I'm sure these with a little more age, because I don't know what the regular bourbon is, but I'm sure it's not 7 years. But I mean, it's an enjoyable pour. So I bet those are going to be really good.
Here's the thing about hard truth as well. While most people are going to be in Spillway the week after Easter, I personally will be at Hard Truth doing the next Bourbon Legends pick. And of course, I can't tell you what it is because I have no idea till I get there what they're going to offer us and what we're going to pick. But that is going to be our next offering. But
Craig, I'm
this
gonna
comes
mute my
with
mic.
okay. This comes with a caveat, folks. We got to sell this first bottle first, and this is the second pick that we've done. I know most of you have heard about it. If you haven't, tomorrow is the absolute last day. At midnight tomorrow night, Cinderella's coach turns back into a pumpkin on this. So if you have thought about it, if you have procrastinated, you need to get out there and you need to get that bottle now or tomorrow, because as of Saturday morning, when I wake up, you send me something, I'm going to say, sorry, folks, it's not available. And there is not going to be any more of this batch. So I would suggest that you go to our Facebook page, the Bourbon Legends. There's links there. You can get links here. You can go to Discord and send me a personal message. It's underneath there as well, under the second pick, the volunteer. And get your bottle, help support. You don't really are supporting us at all. Let me be very transparent and clear with this. I'm losing money on this. By the time I drive to Clarksville, Tennessee, mule this thing back, I mean, I'm already way in the hole right there, right? For hotel rooms and gas and all that. But folks, we're selling this bottle for what it cost us. So nobody's getting rich over here.
So Justin, we can take care of that. Somebody will hand deliver that to you.
Yeah, we can get it hand delivered, Justin.
Yeah, I mean we'll figure out a way to get it there.
If there's a will, there is a way, my friend. I promise.
And here's a wheel right here. Here's a wheel.
There's a wheel.
So there's the way.
He has a car, so hey, we'll do what we can.
I do have a car. I do travel periodically for different things. So.
And hey, yeah. We were talking about Lafayette last week. We like Lafayette area.
Man, I could go down there and eat some crawfish and some boudin and some gumbo and everything else.
Crawfish now dropped to $3.99 a pound here. So
nice.
All right. Hey, without further ado, we want to bring on the man of the hour. We're going to show you here Mr. Pat Hoffmann is our special guest from Lonely Oak Distillery in Iowa. Hello, Pat. How are you?
Hey, how are you guys? Thanks for having me.
Good. Glad to have you on the show. Hey, Pat, can you tell us a little? I've never been to Iowa. What is Iowa known for?
Well, let's see. A week ago, it was wind chill of probably minus 20, and we got about 8 inches of snow. And tomorrow it's going to be 60 degrees. So that's.
Hey, that sounds like Arkansas weather.
It does.
No, so
what do y'all grow there though? What is Iowa known for? Is it like known for carrots or?
No, God, no. Corn and soybeans for the most part.
Corn. That's what I was fishing for.
Yep. That's kind of why I always say when you go to Kentucky, they talk about the water. The only reason they talk about the water is because they can't talk about the grain. Because it all comes from here. So
yeah.
So
I've
anyway,
been to Iowa before. Came up the west side of the state on a trip. I think the only tree I saw had wires attached to it.
yeah, could be. Well, we're right on the we're about an hour from Omaha, Nebraska. So we're on the west side. So
Okay, so I was
Well,
pretty close to your area then.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the whiskey business, or I should say spirits. We don't have to keep this conversation just about whiskey. We can talk about any kind of distilled spirits, or hell, beer, even if you started out as a beer maker. Tell us
No,
tell us a little about yourself.
well, my wife and I worked 30 years in healthcare industry, and we were kind of getting burned out. During that entire time, I also farmed with my father, and ever since I started farming, I always had an itch to have a finished product. And so probably about 10, 12 years ago now, I got this idea in my head, and I just couldn't let it go. And my wife said, "Hey, let's look into it." And so we actually started working with Dave Pickerell, who I'm sure you guys know. He was the master distiller for Makers for 15 years. Passed away probably 5-6 years ago now. Probably the biggest thing he did was Whistle Pig. But we were lucky enough for him to come in as our consultant, him and Nicole Austin. Nicole is now, I believe, the master distiller for, Cascade Hollow, which is Dickel. And so we were lucky enough that the only reason they decided to work with us is because we were what we call a seed to spirit, where we grow all the grain, distill it, mash it, distill it, age it, everything from putting the seed in the ground to pouring the booze in the bottle, all done right here by us. And we grow a lot of heirloom varietal grains. So we try to make, most of the whiskey made today is made out of yellow number 2, which yellow number 2 is the corn that, I grow plenty of it. That's what, when you go through Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, you see yellow number 2 corn. That's what it is. Very high in starch, puts ethanol in your gas tank. But the flavors for whiskey, a lot of that comes from the fat that's in corn. And yellow number 2 is a high starch, low fat corn. It'll get you a lot of alcohol. But the way that the corn that they used to use had a lot more fat in it. And so that's why we went and started growing heirloom varietals. We don't use yellow number 2 for anything. We actually we have 3 heirlooms. One's called Wapsi Valley. That's where our bourbon is made of. We've also grown a Bloody Butcher, and then recently we've also started growing a white corn as well. And so we love to experiment. We love to try different things, and kind of just started out as a little side project, and it's gone much bigger than that. So
you say you primarily use for your bourbon Wapsi Valley, huh?
yes, yeah. So
I made a little trip up to central Missouri last year myself, and brought home some Wapsi Valley. It's a pretty corn.
Yeah, about 1 in every 5 years is red.
Oh,
so
I said corn.
there you go. So you can kind of see this is the top corn right there, how it's different, has a lot of different color to it. But loaded in fat, you get a nice fat cap on top of your fermenters. They're kind of full of the building blocks for esters,
Right.
create your flavors, your yeast.
We were talking about this over the weekend at our little bottle share we had. The guy that was there with us that hosted us is kind of new to bourbon, and we were talking about stills and whatnot. And one of the things that I said, and I may totally be wrong about this, but a column still really strips a lot of the flavor out of the corn. and they rely on the barrel, to get the flavor back in to a bourbon. What does that do with an heirloom corn? I'm assuming it doesn't strip out near as much flavor because there's more flavor in the corn to begin with.
Well, a column, it all depends on how you run your column. You'll see 3 columns behind me, and each one of those windows is a plate, and each plate is a separate distillation. Now you can turn the plates on, and have more reflux. You can turn the plates off, and it'll just be, you're just getting that benefit of copper. So we usually run 3 or 4 plates when we're running our bourbon. That allows enough to carry enough flavor over. There's a trick to distilling. It's not just, you don't just heat it up on one side and have it come out on the other. But my opinion is, when you're running if you're talking about a continuous column, you don't get near the flavor that you're going to get off of an old-fashioned pot still, just because you can control your temperatures so much on your top plate, on your condenser. You have better control of your heads and your tails, and through time and experience, you get to know where to make those cuts.
And every still, honestly, you've got to get to know it, because not every still, it's not like a cut and dry thing. You buy this still and it's going to work this way. You've got to know how to run it, the sweet spots and whatnot in it.
Yeah, and you learn with every mash bill. Every mash bill is going to be a little different. You're going to have different amount of heads. You're gonna, it might run hotter. You might run a bourbon run with one mash bill at 4 plates. You might have to turn that down to 3 plates for another. It depends on your mash. Every mash isn't going to have the same amount of heads. A lot of it depends on your fermentation, your yeast, what temperature that those fermenters are running at. It really makes a difference. And I've been doing it for 9 years, and I'm still learning every day. I like to think I'm getting better. I hope I am.
Yeah, you don't want to go backwards. That's a bad place to be down the line.
Oh yeah.
One thing you find in this business is, when everybody's chasing yield, very few people are chasing flavor, and it's a compromise. If you're chasing yield, you're giving something up, and what you're giving up is either flavor. You're either pulling more heads or more tails into it in order to get more yield, or you're looking at the scale and trying to get a little more, rather than when you know that you should make this cut right here. But modern distilling, and I'm talking about the big guys, the big distilleries, they're not out there making cuts. I mean, what happened here? Why was this decision made? Well, because a probe at this point in the still reached this temperature, and then the computer did this. I mean, yeah, there's not people tasting it. There's not people feeling it. There's not people smelling it. It's, we're doing more with less. That's the way that big business works. And that's from the top to the bottom. And, for me, it's a passion. I hope that in 5 years, I taste when my bourbon's 15 years old and I'm tasting it, and I taste a 10-year, I hope to hell that 15-year, the stuff I've been making, even if it's the same age when I'm drinking it, I hope it's better. I don't ever want, some of those big companies have one guy, their only job is to make sure that today's batch tastes the exact same as last month's batch. I'm like, man, I sure hope I'm getting better. If you're not getting better, you're just spinning your wheels,
Yeah, really. So, you talked about turning the plates on and off, and I think I know the answer to this, but no one's really ever described before how you turn plates on and off in a column still. So what are you doing there? How are you manipulating that?
Well, they're inside the plate there, we call it a tray. And what happens is it's kind of like a drain, really. When your plate is on, you're causing reflux. You're causing a distillation in there. So I always say if you boil water, if you take a full pot of water and you boil it on your stove, and then you go to the side and you look over the top of that pot, and you'll see the water dancing, bouncing up, bubbling up. Well, that's what you're looking at when you're looking at a plate. Okay, and it's reflux. It'll look just like you're looking across the top of a boiling pot of water. Okay, and everything's dancing. And what's happening is the vapor moves up. Moves up as a vapor. It hits that plate. It condenses, revaporizes, starts to boil again as it moves up to the next plate. Condenses, boils, revaporizes, and it moves up. So that reflux is what is going to control, your flavor profile, your proof coming off. But it just takes experience to know, and practice to know that, just because our bourbon, we run 4 plates, doesn't mean that our 4 grain or high rye bourbon, we're going to run 4 plates. It runs different.
Are you taking those plates out of the column?
No, we just turn a lever on the back side of the, you can't really see them there, but on the back side of every window right there, there'll be a lever. So if they're down, they're on, and if they're up, they're off. Then if they're off, it's just like a copper pipe going through. We're not
so
reflux.
So your plates, I'm assuming, let's just say if you have a 2-inch or a 2-foot column, I don't know what size yours are. They're full of holes, right? The plates, are you running bubblers in it?
It looks like an upside down plate. Okay, and then it'll bubble up around that.
Okay, so there's no holes in it, no perforations in it.
Well, on the bottom as it drains down, there will be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people.
You're just draining it. When you open it, you're just draining it out. So a still shouldn't be. There's a little pressure in it, but it's not like a pressure cooker.
Right.
It's every column. When we're making bourbon, when we're making our whiskeys, we do have a 2-column run and we do have a 1-column run. But all the columns drain back to the pot. So it's not like there's pressure pushing it through. It's just, physics that push it through. But, generally the 3 columns that we have, when we're running 3 columns, that's when we're making vodka. Because vodka, has one rule: make it out of anything, but it has to come off the still at 190 proof. And that's hard. That's hard to do. That's why nobody makes vodka. They just buy it.
Interesting.
You're telling us behind the. I'm sorry, Will. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to stay on the kind of technical line. So you were talking about the corn earlier, and you had a jar that had the 3 different kinds of corn in it. So when you're processing that, are there any differences in the processing of that, or are they tough? Is one grain tougher than the other? Do you have to do anything different to them?
Our grain, not really as far as the corn goes. We'll run it through a hammer mill. This is the way it enters. When we don't have bags of flour or bags of cornmeal, it goes in to the hammer mill. Right before we fire up the mash tank, we'll weigh out our grain and we'll grind it right there directly into the mash tank. And so as far as the corn's all pretty, it's dried down, and so it pretty much all, I should say, it mashes in the same, but it ferments different. Okay, every corn ferments a little different.
And that's just because of the different sugars and all that's in each individual variety.
Yep. And I assume that, some of the corn is a little tougher than the other, and so it won't break down as much as others, where if it's really dry, if it's more of if it's pretty brittle, it'll really grind fine. Where if it is not so much, you might have some bigger chunks of it, but it's ground down enough to where, we don't want to turn it into a powder. We don't want to turn it into corn flour. We want it to have some texture.
Do you guys do sweet mash process, or are you sour mash? Or
We do both. We do both. Mostly what we do, our Steeple Ridge bourbon is all sweet mash. Our ryes are sweet mash. We have a 4-grain sour mash bourbon that we do, and that's corn, wheat, rye, and oats, and that's a sour mash. But for the most part, we do all sweet mashes.
gotcha. I have a question about you. You called it Steeple Ridge. How did you come up with that name for your bourbon line?
Well, where the distillery sits, this is on our farm. We're surrounded by cornfields, bean fields, machine sheds. This is right where I'm sitting right now. Is there used to be a house that sat right here, and I'd be sitting in my dad's living room when he was growing up. And so from that, we sit on a high ridge out in the country, and from here you can see 3 church steeples. You see the St. Joseph's in Erling, Iowa, probably 4 miles away. St. Boniface in Westphalia is probably 7. And then St. Mary's in Panama is probably around 3 or 4 miles to the south. And so we've always kind of called it Steeple Ridge before it was a whiskey.
That's cool. See, I like those backstories like that. You can kind of deep dive, if you will, and because I was always curious, just the last, looking at your page, and well, what is Steeple Ridge? I mean, there's got to be something to it, but what is it?
Yep, that's how we came up with the name.
Can I do something real quick? We're wanting to give away a bottle of Steeple Ridge. And so if you guys want to win a bottle of this, just go in and put hashtag Steeple Ridge, STEEPLERIDGE, and you'll be
Hey,
did I
Craig.
misspell it? Did I misspell it?
No.
Nope,
You
you're
got
right.
Steeple Ridge right, but you're giving away a bottle of Hard Truth, is what it says.
Well, you know what? I will
We're
change that.
Let's change that real quick.
I'll change it to win a.
It's not. Hey, it's not our show if we don't do stuff like that, right? So while Craig's doing
that's
that,
the way it goes.
That's right.
So Pat, you talked about the quality. You really want the stuff you make years down the road to be better than the stuff you're making right now. Tell me, when someone tastes Steeple Ridge for the first time, what do you hope that they get out of it? What do you want them to immediately recognize, tasting notes or experience wise?
I don't know. I'm not, I want them to, a good solid American bourbon is what I want. I get lots of dark cherries, dark fruits. I get vanillas, toffees, your traditional whiskey flavors. But whiskey, I always say the beautiful thing about whiskey is it's subjective. I've had some of the best bourbon in the world, according to all the critics in the magazines, and I didn't like it. Now, does that mean it's not good? No, it just doesn't fit my flavor profile.
Yeah.
So, I don't take, I think that some of the higher end whiskey guys, they don't, a lot of that stuff is money under the table.
I was going to say,
and it's made up. That's why I always say, look at the awards this whiskey won. Well, I can look at those awards. What are those awards? Well, if you send me 2 bottles of whiskey and $500, you can enter this competition. And guess what? It's like youth soccer. Everybody wins. So I always tell people, you can tell the ones that are really fake because we know the gold, the silver, and the bronze. We just had the Olympics. First, second, and third, and so they throw you off, and then they say, they instead of gold, silver, and bronze, they have double platinum, and gold. Okay, well, if you walk into my tasting room and you see I have a gold medal, what do you think? You think I got first place.
Yeah.
Right? If you see I got a platinum, you think I got first place. If you see I got a double platinum, you definitely know I got first place, right? So I always say those guys with a double platinum statue or medal, they don't put out their platinum medals, because then it'll give it up, right? So a lot of it is just, I mean, there are good ones, but there are a lot of ones that are just money makers. You'll find in this industry, the same guys run a different competition every week. And a lot of it is just horse shit. That's what it is. And so
I was going to say, do you know Gary Heingardner
I don't.
from Wood Hat? Because
Oh,
you guys
I have met him before. I met him at
Gary?
Distillers Conference in Minnesota years ago.
I was going to say, we had Gary on the show, and that topic came up, and he says it's all bullshit.
It is. I mean, I don't know. A good friend of mine, Keith Kirchhoff, he was a founder of Templeton Rye, one of the main guys, and before they've been bought out by whoever owns them now. They're a big corporation. But Keith told me, he said, Pat, once you win one gold medal, after that you're just pissing money away. And I'll never forget that. You just need one. Well, we've gotten several, and I mean, there's some merit to it. It's good to have some affirmation, but I like to, I like the average Joe. I want to know what he thinks of it. I want to know, I want to go do a tasting in Omaha or in Des Moines and have guys that just like bourbon, that are just like me, and don't think that they're God's gift to the whiskey industry, and their opinion matters so much. I could give two shits about what that guy thinks. I want to know what my customers think. And I want to know, and I don't take offense if they don't like it, because like I said, I've drank some of the best, and and I didn't care for it. But that's what makes whiskey wonderful, is that you have your flavor. Some guys like that bold and spicy. I like it sweet and smooth, and I like those subtle flavors. That's why ours is a wheated bourbon, And so, that's, like I said, it doesn't make one bad or one good. It just makes it different.
Tracy has a question. She says, how do you convince the diehards to try a bourbon or a whiskey when it's only aged 3 years?
Well, I mean, I don't know where you've seen it's aged 3 years. Everything we're selling now is at least 5.
No, I think she's just saying in general.
Well, that's just it. We're going to be 10 years, right? How do you get old quick in whiskey industry? Well, I'll tell you, you buy barrels from MGP and you sell it as your own. That's how you do it. You open up a distillery in 10 years ago, or in 1990 or 2016, or let's say you open up a distillery in 2026, and the first whiskey that you release is a 6-year-old bourbon. Well, how's that work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what so much happens. That's what so much happens. You guys know it. It doesn't mean it's not good whiskey, but to me, it's cheating. What have you done when you buy somebody else's bourbon and sell it as your own? I understand you're building your brand, but what people don't think about is guys that do that. Okay, I've been buying MGP juice and selling it as my own. Let's just say that I'm opening a distillery and that's what I'm going to do, and I do that for 5 years. And then while I'm doing that, I'm making my own. Okay, and then in 5 years, when my juice is ready, I'm going to sell that, as I'm going to start selling my juice and not sell the MGP juice anymore. My question is, are you going to change the recipe, or are you going to make exactly what MGP made? Because if you don't, the juice you're replacing it with is going to taste completely different. And you do that for your bourbon, and you do that for your rye, and you do that, and 1,000 other distilleries do the exact same thing, and then people want to know why whiskey all tastes the same. Well, a lot of it's made in one place, and because you sold others as your own, you had to make their recipe, because otherwise, your fans on that 6th year, they're going to say, yeah, I really liked your bourbon, but it could change completely different. The taste is completely different now. What's going on with that? Okay. People don't think about, the long-term effects of that, and how are you going to be original? And some people are not happy. Some people are just in it for the money, and that's fine. But I want to be original. I had conversations about this exact thing with Dave Pickerell when we started this, and he told me, he said, well, it's really hard to do what you're planning on doing because, you can't get old quick. You got to wait, and I get it, man. We started selling bourbon in our 3rd year, I believe, and today I probably wouldn't drink that. But man, I thought it was good then. But like I said, the next year was better. The next year was better. Now everything that we're doing is 5, 6, 7, years old. We always held some back. And so, and we always produce more than what we sell because we want to, end up in that sweet spot. I hope someday I get to a barrel and I taste it and I say, damn it, I should have sold this last year.
Larry wants to know, is there any 10-year barrels hidden on the farm somewhere?
Absolutely. They'll be coming to Larry at a very high price. I got your number, Larry. I'll be calling you.
So the next thing I want to talk about, Pat, you're talking about everything being different, being innovative, and putting a lot of passion in. I can just tell the way you're talking, you've got a lot of passion for what you're doing. But talking about barrel entry proofs and aging, how does that work in Iowa? Is there any advantage to aging in Iowa, or do you see any challenges?
If it wasn't for Prohibition, Iowa would be the king of bourbon. When your raw material is grown in Iowa, does it make sense to build distilleries in Kentucky? Not really. Why are they building ethanol plants in Iowa? Because we grow all the corn. And now we're taking it a step further and growing grains that no one else is growing or very few people are growing. I think that, I firmly believe it because we have the soil to grow it. And not only that, we have the climate to age it. What makes bourbon special or as far as aging bourbon, what really helps you is the temperature swings that you have throughout the year. And I read a study they did probably 15, 20 years ago now. They took the top 50 cities in America with the biggest temperature swings. And to be a city, you had to have over 50,000 population. And Iowa had 13 cities in the top 50. And Iowa only has 13 cities with 50,000 people in it. Okay. And so it's those temperatures. Like I said, tomorrow it's going to be 60 degrees. A week ago it was 0. And we get that. Those temperature fluctuations. That's what's driving that whiskey into the barrel, sucking that whiskey back out, and those type. Now it doesn't happen as fast as that, but I always say in the winter, if it's 30 degrees outside and you go into the barrel warehouse, it'll feel like 0 because that whiskey's cold and it's holding that temperature. That's the coldest building in the distillery. And in the summer, there's nothing better than that first where everything changes from cold to all of a sudden you'll get an 80-degree day and you got 80% humidity and you walk into that barrel room and every barrel is sweating. You can see the whiskey line in every barrel because it's the condensation for the humidity is on it. And the smell of that rick house that's the best smell in the world. And you always get that early in the spring, and one of these days, we're going to have that. And that's the best day to come see a distillery, because you might not remember what the whiskey tastes like, but you'll never get that smell out of your memory. You'll never forget that smell.
There's nothing like walking into a rick house, and you never want to drink whiskey in a rick house because it'll never taste better anywhere else. It's like catching a fish, eating it right there on the shore. You'll never get a better product. And drinking a lot of whiskey in rick houses, and damn it, they're all good.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the rick house, if you will, corn sweat. I know that's a thing where in the fall or late in the harvest season, when the corn reaches that and it drives that humidity up, does that do any change to the aging as opposed to like someplace that would not have that much humidity?
Well, unless we're talking about something different, what happens in Iowa is, especially when it's a wet year, is they'll have what they call a corn sweat, where it'll drive the humidity up because because of all the moisture in the plant and in the ground, and it releases it into the atmosphere, and it'll get hot and it'll get humid. But it doesn't have much. I mean, if we're talking about the same thing, it's not this corn. It's the live plant. As it's before it's harvested. Yeah. I mean, all of that matters. Relative humidity. We have we rack our barrels 6 high, 5 or 6 high, depending on the size. And so we have little temperature and humidity sensors at the first, the third, and the fifth rack. So, and then we can track each, we can track the relative humidity and the temperature of those positions in the rick house for the life of the barrel. Now, there's not the bottom rack will never get as hot as the top rack, and the top rack will never get as cool as the bottom. And information's only useful if you can make decisions upon it. But I don't know if I can make any decisions on it, but it's something, you're always taking notes. You're always looking long-term, because, we did, 12 barrels this morning we filled, I suppose, and a lot of people think, well, that's the end. You filled it and then you just wait, 5 years and see what comes out. It's all the note-taking that you took beforehand that matters. What were the fermentations like? What was the mash? What was the mash bill? What was the yeast? There's what was the distillation like? All those notes throughout the distillation. There's a lot to track, because in 5 years, I want to, if it's something special, I can go back and try to recreate that. What was the barrel proof? What was the barrel proof with which yeast? There's so much to learn, and it takes I don't know if you can learn all there is to know in a lifetime. We finally just, we kind of settled in. We use 3 yeasts. We use primarily wine yeast, because wine yeast are ester bombs, and whiskey yeast primarily makes whiskey fast, and that's about it. I'm not a yeast expert, but in my experience, wine yeast is cheap distiller's yeast is cheap and fast, and wine yeast is expensive and creates so much more subtle flavors, aromas, mouthfeel. And so that's what we use. And we barrel one at 108, one at 116, and one at 124. It sounds like, but it's taken years to figure that out. You got to barrel the yeast at different proofs, and then all of a sudden you figure out, oh, that yeast really does well at 116, and this one does really well, at 124, and so you kind of find their sweet spots. But man, it takes a long time to figure that out.
Yeah.
And luckily I had Dave Pickerel show us and help us, where I didn't have to know all the science. I didn't have to know all of the, the different techniques, because I'm like, you know what? Hey, well, why do you do it that way? Well, because Dave told me so. And, sometimes that's just good enough, and until somebody's smarter and bigger than him comes along and says, Pat, you're screwing the whole things up, I'll probably keep doing it that way.
Mike Brock wants to know, is there a magic spot in the rick house?
I haven't, you don't know what you don't know. And I guess we're still trying to figure that out. Because, at first you're just scrambling, we built the distillery thinking we'd have enough room for barrels in here. And I don't know what we were thinking, but we weren't. A year later, we built our first warehouse, and that's connected to the distillery. And 3 or 4 years later, that was completely full of barrels. And then we added another a big rick house that is as big as the distillery and the first rick house combined. And so those barrels got moved around, quite a bit, got restacked, reshuffled. And that's one of the things that, we probably haven't started taking great notes on, because because everything we just outgrew ourselves. And so now, in the last 5 years, we're starting to find, we're trying to match yeast proofs to rickhouse positions. And that's still a work in progress.
Nice. So you were talking about all the documentation you have on your mash bills and the different yeasts and strains and how all that works together. Looking back to the beginning, is there anything that you would have changed as far as those mash bills, or are there some that just didn't turn out right?
Oh, it's such a long game, that, you're not gonna make 5 different mash bills and then wait 5 years and find out what those mash bills tasted like, So that's where we relied a lot on Dave, and I'll be honest with you, I try to be different, for instance, you make a rye, probably 90% of all the rye made is 95% rye, 5% barley, or 100% rye. Okay. Now 100 years ago, you couldn't buy a rye like that. Probably 50 years ago, you couldn't buy a rye like that. So, we decided, let's make an old fashioned rye. So we do a 60% AC Hazlitt rye and a 40% Wapsi Valley corn. And I think it's our hidden gem. I think it's just absolutely wonderful. What that tastes like, and it tastes, the one thing we have when people try our rye, they're like, wow, that doesn't taste like any rye I've ever tried. And it's like, well, yeah, because all the rye is 95.5 or 100%, I mean, I like I said, if you want to differentiate yourself, don't make what everybody else is making, because if that's what they like, there's plenty of it out there, so I try to do something, everything that we do, we try to do something a little bit different, to a certain degree than anybody else. I mean, we're already growing the grain. There's about a handful of distilleries that can claim that in the country, maybe in the world, I don't know. And so, like I said, I mean, we're pretty hands-on. I can't say that there's not a mash that's gone through this place that I haven't touched in one form or another. I don't have any employees. It's my wife and I have 5 kids that help out tremendously. But we're doing it our way. We're doing it, we have no investors. We got nobody saying, hey, you need to get this barrel is 4 years old. You got to get it sold. Let's go. You know, it's not ready till I say it's ready.
So you've got complete control of that process from cradle to grave, basically.
100%. 100%. Yep.
See, we're always in for the craft distiller, the little guy. I mean, what you're sitting here saying, you know, I'm thinking of like Seth Detling over at Detling in Alabama, Matt Crittenden down in Kiln, Mississippi. You know, I'm trying to think of anybody else that's just doing it basically yourself. You know, it's
Well,
just a super small, you know,
It is. It's. I
team.
mean, it is. It's. I mean, what is craft? I mean, what is? You know, I mean, it's all relative, right? I mean, if you're doing 10,000 gallon batches, you know, is that? I mean, let's say I'm doing 5,000 gallon batches. Well, is that small batch compared to the guy that's doing 10? You know, I'm doing 300 gallon batches. I think that's. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That's small batch. But what about the guy that's doing 3,000? Well, he thinks he is because there's a guy doing 5,000, and the guy that's doing 5,000 thinks he's small batch because there's a guy doing 10,000. You know what I mean? So there's no definition for that for craft. You know, and that's why you know that's why there's distilleries that have everything. A multi-million-dollar convention center or a visitor center, rick houses galore. They have everything but a still and a master distiller. That's, you know, because they're not making anything. And they do everything that they can, you know, to kind of hide the fact that, we're not making, you know, you can't really come out and say we're not making anything. You know, my wife and I went on to Ireland and to Scotland a couple years ago, and we went to a distillery over there. And I always say, you know, I don't want to go to, you know, I don't know what you guys do for your professional careers, but you know, it's like I'm a distiller. When I go on vacation, I don't want to go to a distillery. I'm here every freaking day. You know, I want to go do something else, you know, but my brother-in-law's a travel agent, and he took us to a distillery, and it was one of the oldest ones in Ireland. And he told the tour guide that I was a distiller, that we owned a distillery. And I'll never forget the first thing out of that tour guide's face or mouth was, welcome to, and I can't remember the distillery name, and I wouldn't say it if I could. You know, we're one of the oldest ones in Ireland. And before we start, I just want you guys to know that we actually don't make anything here. And I looked at my wife and I said, that's the first tour that ever started like that. You know, and the only reason he started it that way was because he knew that I could look at what they're doing and know if they're doing it or not. Or if they're just buying barrels from somebody else. But you think about it, I don't know, say there's 2,000 or 3,000 distilleries, or what, 5,000 distillers in the country. That's not a lot. You know, how many guys know if a still is actually hooked up to a boiler? You know, I mean, there are stills, and then there are there's furniture. You know, you can buy this still that's behind me and spend a shitload of money, or you can buy one that looks just like it, that's never meant to be turned on, and save, you know, 2/3. Buy your whiskey and sell it as your own, and 90% of the people won't know the difference. But part of our job as craft is educating people and letting them know that, hey, there are guys that are doing it, and then there are guys that are faking it. And like I said, it doesn't mean that their whiskey isn't good. Okay, certainly there's a lot of MGP whiskey that's good. Okay, and of course there's other distillers that custom distill for other people, and that's a business. That's fine, but I just wish people were more open about it, you know. And then if I call it out, I'm a horse's ass. Well, guess what? That's all right. I've been called worse.
Well, I think the problem lies in when they try to be deceitful. You know, there's some people that are honest, and then there's some people that are not. And let's face it, the bourbon industry is all about marketing. It's all about lore. It's all about BS. You know, I mean, what is a 20-year-old whiskey any better than a 15-year-old whiskey? I mean, I guess it just depends on who's telling you that and who's hyping it up and everything else. And if you didn't have an age statement on a bourbon, would you be more likely, like as a somebody who buys whiskey, we look at age and we're like, oh, well, this is a 10-year, Eagle Rare 10-year. It's a good product. And then they come out with the Eagle Rare 13 or whatever, or 12. It's a 12, but I believe it's 12. Is that not right? Will, help me out here.
The 12,
I'm falling.
Eagle Rare
I
12.
need Roger on the show to correct me. But is that 12-year any better because it's 2 years older?
Well, it's rare, right?
Right.
I mean, a lot of barrels don't make it 10 years. A lot of barrels, if fewer barrels make it 12. Like I always say, there's a lot of rare whiskeys out there that the only reason they're rare is because they want it that way, right? Because you're not going to buy a 12-year-old bottle of bourbon for $60 or a 20, or you're going to spend a lot more money for that. But like I said, and hey man, someday I'm going to have one. I think that's great. I think that's great. But when mine's 10, when mine's 15, when mine's 20, it's going to be mine. There's not a lot of craft in buying juice from somebody else and putting their barrel in your rick house and stacking them up as high as you can, as many as you can buy, and then waiting 20 years and say, you know what, look what I did. I mean, like I said, you can try, but you're never, but that's,
well,
like I said, and it doesn't mean it's not good. It doesn't mean it's not good whiskey.
Yeah, but they're just storing it.
You got to have some integrity. If you're going to tell a story, it better be true.
Yeah, they're just keeping it in a warehouse is all they're doing there,
And that shows the real, the I don't want to say craft as in small, but as craft as in crafting something. Like you said earlier, you're doing it your way. You're doing it the way you see fit. If somebody doesn't like it, well, then there's plenty for them to go get. If they love it, then they love it. But it's the passion behind it, and it's the. So I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I play in the dark arts myself, and people say, "What are you going to do with all that?" I don't know. I enjoy the craft of it. I enjoy taking ingredients, putting them together, and at the end of the day, having something. And it may take 10 or 15 years to know whether I was any good at it or not, but it's mine, like you say.
Rectifying or mixing barrels is a talent, is a skill, is a gift to be able to do it. But you never see somebody advertised as a rectifier, because people don't know what that is. Pappy Van Winkle is one of the greatest rectifiers there ever was. Look at Orphan Barrel. Fantastic stuff. They buy whiskey from somebody else. They're not lying about it. They're doing all this stuff and they're proud of it. I think that I love that stuff, and I love good stories like that. I guess a story's only good if it's true. You know what I mean? I mean,
I don't know. I like
Elijah. There's so few of them.
I like the Elijah Craig story. I mean, he was a preacher and the first one to ever make bourbon, right?
Right. Well, allegedly.
I mean, that's what they tell us, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, that and that's what makes whiskey. I always say that Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, and me have one thing in common. We were farmers before we were distillers. Okay? And so, this is where the root of distilling came from the farm. We couldn't store grain 150 years ago like we could now. You fed it to your cattle or livestock. You ate it. There wasn't like a market like there is today where we buy and sell it on the board of trade or sell it to your local elevators like that. That wasn't, transportation was a big thing trying to haul that. Well, it's a lot easier to carry, 20 gallons of moonshine over a mountain than 100 bushel of corn, right? And that's where a lot of it started, and it's that it's that tradition. And I'm sitting here in Iowa thinking, God, we have the ground, we can grow anything, and I started getting into whiskey and thinking, why nobody's doing it? Nobody, or I shouldn't say nobody, but very few people are doing it. And why not? Well, maybe the why not is because it's really hard. It's really hard. I've spent an hour and 15 minutes telling you guys the story. That's going to go into the wind, and one of the big distillers is going to run, a commercial nationally every hour for the next, 3 months. It's a hard story to get out. But you know what? I look at 30 years ago, 25 years ago, I look around here and I'm like, craft beer. What was craft beer? I think Samuel Adams maybe was just getting started, but there wasn't. We had Bud, we had Bud Light, we had Coors, Miller, Schlitz, Hamm's was still around. That's what we had. There wasn't craft beer. But now go to the grocery store, and every foot there's a different craft beer. Well, I think that's where we're in the infancy in distilling. But the problem is that it's all up front. All the money is up front, and then you got to wait. People say 4 or 5 years, but you really don't. You got to wait 10 years. Because first you got to get some age behind you before you can really start. And I just think that we're right there in the starting gate, ready to get going now, because we've got aged stock. It's our own. We made every drop of it. We grew every drop of it. And people want to know where their food came from, where their food comes from. People have always wanted to know where their wine came from. People in the last 20 years wanted to know where their where their beer came from. And here we sit, and probably 70% of the public thinks that bourbon has to come from Kentucky, because they've done a great job telling that story. And I just think people are going to want something different. And when they find out, they're going to want something original. And that's what you're going to find at Lonely Oak Distillery in Steeple Ridge.
That's kind of where, hold on, I don't know if you can hear me or not. That's kind of where the bourbon legends, when we started doing this show, it's one thing to hear the story, from a marketer, somebody who's getting paid to, push out the Heaven Hill product or this, that. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to interview anybody from Heaven Hill anytime. We've had on people, work at bigger distilleries and whatnot. But we really are into the small guys, to the ones that are really dedicated to the craft of distilling. And I think that is going to be the backbone. Like you said, going down, through the years. it's kind of like a Trader Joe's or something. You can go to Safeway or you can go to Kroger. But you want to try to, or at least for me, I want to support the people out there who need the support more than somebody like. And I'm going to bring up Heaven Hill because we went through there. How many fermenters did they? I mean, how many? They had like 24. I
Yeah, it
forget,
was.
95,000
Yeah,
gallon
Yeah.
fermenters. I mean,
yeah, it's
it's like
insane. Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't really need.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
don't really need help,
it's 24/7, 365.
Yeah.
And I mean, and there's nothing wrong with it. But and I guess when I kind of got into it, like I guess you can tell I got a little bit of a passion about it. But I'd be like, what's special when you're producing, when you got 100,000 gallons in fermenters setting every week? What's special about it? And all your decisions are made by computers. Okay, and I enjoy the craft of it. I like to, I'm still learning, and I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I'll learn just a subtlety in looking at the numbers or the information or the flavor profile over the years, and it's something very subtle. And you would think that it'd be very hard to find. And sometimes it's like a 2x4 to the forehead. Like, oh, how could I have been so stupid for so long? Where you just have a sudden transformation on anything. And I'll be honest with you, right now, I was convinced doing some research that we should change the way that we're doing things. To try to create more flavors, create more esters within our fermentation. Stress the yeast a little more to create a little more flavors, and to just make something a little more unique, more us. And now I'm sitting on 4 fermenters that are stuck. And I told my wife, I mean, a stuck fermentation means, you're not fermenting all the way down. You're not getting all the alcohol out. You're stuck. And I just told my wife, I'm like, we've got something really good. And for all of a sudden, I think I can, you're always chasing. You're always trying to make it better and trying to do this. And then I learned. And so instead of getting, 45 proof gallons of fermenter, I'm going to end up getting 32 because, I should have just stuck with what Dave told me, but that's part of it. Sometimes you learn, that's life. A lot of times the most valuable lessons you learn are by fucking up, that's just the way the life is. Yeah, and that's the way this is too. But if you don't try, if you don't fail, you're really not going to know what success is.
That kind of halfway.
That's very true.
Yeah, that kind of halfway answers the next question I was going to ask, because I was going to say, is there anything you're experimenting on, any new mash bills or anything that the Bourbon Legends should be looking for coming up?
Oh, we have a 4-grain bourbon, and I'm going to give myself a plug here. LonelyOakDistillery.com. You can order our stuff online. I hope you do. You'll see a place on a tab to order online. But yeah, you never hear about the failures, the bad stuff. We have a 4-grain bourbon. I'm sorry, a high rye bourbon that's sitting, not ready for, it's still got get some age under it. We've got a high rye bourbon. And we did some experimenting with a corn whiskey where we blended 2 or 3 different types of corn. Did some with rye, some with wheat that were aging in some used casks just to play around with. We're always we've got a white grain bourbon. We've got our Bloody Butcher bourbon that's resting. And then in addition to our traditional bourbon, we're always playing around, with different things because it's kind of hard. You know, you can't just take a corn. I mean, we look at, you know, I looked at heirloom corns, but for a long time, you know, what's the secret? Well, a lot of the secret is just a lot of the, you know, you have the precursors, the fats, the enzymes that create a great flavor profile, great mouthfeel. But then I started to think, you know, I'm a farmer. I've been farming for 30 years or more. And, you know, I think I know a lot about growing corn, but what do I really know about corn, you know? And so Dr. Jerry Strissel out of Harlan, Iowa, I don't know how old he is. He's at least 80 years old. He's been breeding corn for, I don't know, 55 years or longer. That's his business. Mm-hmm. That's what he has always done for different companies. And then he's been out on his own with his daughter. And I just thought, all of a sudden, like one of those 2x4s to the head. Why do I think I know so much about the corn? I know how to grow corn. And so he came out, and their salesman is a good friend of my son-in-law's, and they came out, and he showed me all these white corns that he has, and laid them all out, gave me all the specs and everything, and I said, and he said, which one do you want? And I looked at him and I said, I don't know, Jerry, which one should I plant? And he just went, this one. And he goes, if you want good whiskey, this is the one you plant. Now, he's done stuff for Buffalo Trace before. He does stuff all over the world, not just whiskey, tortilla shell, everything, just industry specific. I mean, that's his craft right there. And so that was another eye opener, you know, like, you know, maybe I should take this another step further and not just, but actually listen to somebody that knows their business and devoted his life to. And so that's when we started growing the white corn. And I'll tell you what, nothing mashes and nothing ferments like that white corn, you know. Now, if I were to do a yellow corn, I'm going to get probably 10% more yield on a yellow number 2 than a white. If I'm doing a white, I'm probably going to get 10% more yield than if I'm doing a Bloody Butcher or a Wapsi Valley, you know. But they all ferment different. They all have different flavor profiles, different mouth feels. Of course, the yeast adds a lot to it, and everyone, you know, has little subtleties to it. And you know, the hardest part of the whole thing is trying to remember everything from where we are today to where we're going to be 5 years from now. What did I do 5 years ago that made this unique and different? And so sometimes you just got to put your trust in, hey, you know, Dave Pickerell taught me well. And, you know, I don't have to second guess myself on everything, you know, but try to move, and try to create something better from where we were, you know, adding, you know, my little spice to it. And so, and like I said, sometimes it's something that's very hard that you think, man, I really worked hard to get this to where it is. And sometimes it's like, how could I have been so dumb for so long that I never saw this?
Yeah.
And that's the way it is.
Have you ever heard that if it makes good cornbread, it'll make good whiskey?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll have my wife make bread from it, you know, from your mash bill, and see what it tastes like. Absolutely, and that's an old distiller's thing, you know, that's what we did when we first started, you know.
Will, I think you have some Wapsi Valley cornmeal.
I had some, but the dadgum pantry moths got it.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'll send you some.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, just here, let me throw my email address out there.
You got guys online selling it for like $10 a pound. Now, there's 56 pounds in a bushel. So that's 560 pounds a bushel. I'm like, man, if I can get 560 pounds, $560 a bushel, I'm just going to stop distilling and just start growing Wapsi Valley and selling it online.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think what I paid for my 50-pound bag. Can't remember. It was maybe like, I think maybe $1.50 a pound, maybe. I can't remember. But
I'd take $1.50 a pound. I mean, corn market today at local was right at $4 a bushel. So that's $4 for
mm,
56 pounds. But that's yellow number two, you know. But you know, like I said, now, um, you know, you grow yellow number two corn, you get 4 pounds a bushel, or you get $4 a bushel at the current market, local. Um, say you get 250 bushel an acre, which is good around here. It costs you the same amount to grow this Wapsi Valley right here, and you're going to get 85. Okay, you know, and that's because it's not a hybrid. You know, it's an open pollinated. I always say, you know, it's ready to combine a week after it blew over. You know, it's the worst looking cornfield in Iowa. I have, if I'm growing Wapsi Valley and Bloody Butcher, I got the two worst looking cornfields in Iowa. That is no shit, because that is just, you know, it's corn that's the same for 100 years.
Yeah.
hey, at least you can harvest it. Every time I grow corn, the squirrels and the crows eat all my crap up.
Well, you don't grow enough of it. There's plenty
I
of
know
that going around too.
I know that's the problem. I don't have enough land. I've got a buddy of mine who, it's funny. He's a metal worker. Let's just say he may have had something to do with welding stainless steel and copper and whatnot. But last year he tried to plant three acres of Jimmy Red, and literally about 3 days after we planted it, we had about 7 inches of rain, and of course, you know, it washed his complete, you know,
Took his
field
furrow
out.
right out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was gone. And I planted 4 times Jimmy Red until I realized that it was the squirrels that were eating every 5 inches or 6 inches while there was a little hole there. But this year he swears that we're going to plant five acres, and he's bought him a single picker, so it pulls behind his tractor, just one picker, so we wouldn't have to go out there and pick it by hand. And
That takes a long time. Yeah.
I need to. Well, he's like, the guy he bought it from. He's like, if you get up early and you stay late, you should be able to pick 5 acres in a day.
I hope you don't need parts for that.
He's an old fabricator, but I'm like, you know, God, I told my dad today, I said, it'd just be cheaper for me to drive to Missouri and just buy this crap, you know. But there again, it's I want to be able to say that we did it from start to finish.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing.
You know, and you know, I always say, you know, farming is different, you know, than most professions. I think, you know, when I moved back here, you know, I lived here my whole life, went away to college, and, you know, came back and found that the simplest, most enjoyable thing that I do, that I've ever done, was what I've done before I went away, and that was to farm. I didn't like it when I was younger, you know, and then as you grow into it, you learn, you know, what a skill it is, you know. And today there's so much technology, you know, that's involved with it, and it took me a while to appreciate it. You know, as crazy as that sounds, you know, it really did. And so I still consider myself, you know, maybe a little bit of a novice at farming, because I don't think I appreciated it when I was just helping my dad, you know, do it. But when you got skin in the game, all of a sudden, you know, you take some pride in it, you know, and I've got two son-in-law or two boys that are in the ag industry. They're both agronomists, and they're Iowa State graduates in agronomy and ag systems technology. They'll know more than what I'll probably ever know. And I've got a son-in-law who's been farming and raising cattle and working his ass off since he was probably 10 or younger. And, I'll be honest with you, if I'm 59, and if I got a question about farming, a lot of times I'll ask my son-in-law, because he has been putting his passion into it since he was 10 years old. And he'll give me some of the best advice that I could ever ask for. And my brother-in-law is an agronomist as well. And I'm surrounded by expertise from the highest cutting edge of farming with my brother-in-law and my sons that are in the ag industry, commercially, and to have a son-in-law that's been working on the farm. He's the kind of guy that has a job so he can farm. And, that's the way I grew up. Every farmer had a job just so that they could survive farming, and to have a son-in-law that I can just go to and say, hey, I know that I'm, 35 years older than you are, and my sons too. I know that I'm 35 years older than all you guys, but I really want to know what you guys think, and I think part of it's just being able to recognize that, hey, you know what? It's okay if you don't know anything, because there are plenty of guys that are more than happy to help you out and ask. Now, if any of those guys want to help run a distillery, I will help them out nuts and bolts from start to finish, but there's the farming is kind of like a brotherhood. And, if somebody's having a hard time, it isn't a competition. If somebody's having a hard time, the person that's going to help you out is your neighbor right across the street doing the exact same thing that you're doing. Craft distilling is the same way. If it's Lonely Oak Distillery, Cedar Ridge, Mississippi River Distilling, Iowa Distilling, if they have an issue, if they need a part, if they have equipment, they know that they can call any one of us. We all run a lot of the same equipment, same parts, same everything, and we'll help each other out. We're not going to get rich stealing from craft distillers. When the big boys, the Sazeracs, the Jack Daniels, Jim Beam, Buffalo Trace, when they hold 90% of the market, we're not going to squabble over that 10% between us. We need to bring those people over, and we all get that. And so it's not like, people always think that, well, you're an Iowa distillery. Well, what other Iowa distilleries are you competing with? Well, none really, because I'm competing against the hearts and minds of the American public, so that they know, hey, what is real and what isn't, and what is mass produced and what isn't. And a lot of it is just education, shows like this, getting on, and you guys are doing a good job educating the public, and that's what I try to do too. And a lot of people just like, I never knew anything about that. I never knew that was a thing. I thought all whiskey is the same.
So I gotta go back to the farming a little bit. So how many acres do you farm, and what are some of the biggest challenges on the farming side?
We do about 650, 700 acres, and I mean, right now the biggest challenge is the market. Corn and soybeans are down, especially corn, and so, we're used to that. I'll never forget when I got into this, a good friend of mine is a distiller in Eastern Iowa. We got to be friends. We have the same still that they have, and helped us out a lot in the beginning, and definitely a lot during the hand sanitizer days of COVID. And he came out here and he had a terrible hangover, and he sat out and he was sitting in front of the still, and he said, "You don't know what you bought into." And I'm like, "What's that?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "You're going to stick hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment and barrels, and you're going to fill it full of whiskey, and then you're going to sit on it, and you're not going to be able to sell it for 3, 4, 5, 6 years. What the hell were you thinking?" You know? And I'm like, I do that every spring. I stick a shitload of money in the ground, and I fertilize it, and I pray for rain and good weather, and it's not too hot this time of year, and it's really hot this time of year, and we get that one rain the end of July and the first part of August that's going to make our crop. I borrow money every year to do that. I'm used to it, because I'm a farmer, and that's what every farmer does. That's what damn near every farmer does. And sometimes you have good years, and sometimes you have bad years, but you just stick your way through it, But like I said, there's, farming and making whiskey, there's a lot of pride taken into all of that, and so I just, there's not a lot of, the reason there isn't a big distinction between farmers and distillers is because 200 years ago, every distiller is or was a farmer. That's just the way it was. That was the birth of distilling came from agriculture. It's just a part of it. I always tell people, this is value-added agriculture. Instead of feeding corn to a steer and making a steak, we feed corn to a still and make bourbon. There's no difference.
That's very true. Never thought about it like that, but
yeah, I mean George Washington's farm, all the apples, they made brandy out of all the apples so they could preserve that crop. You talked about it a little bit earlier in the interview. And I mean that was just the way everything was done then.
We live a privileged life right now.
We're pretty lucky.
We don't have to do that stuff.
No.
Hey, can we give away a bottle?
Absolutely.
Before we wrap this up and move on?
Absolutely.
Right. This is your last chance. Steeple Ridge, hashtag Steeple Ridge. We're going to give away. See, we've got 38 people watching right this second, and we have 21 entries. So that means that there's at least 8 or 9 people that do not want this bottle given to them.
Well, I don't have my entry in there, but everybody would say it was rigged if I won. So
that's true. I would even say it was rigged if you won.
Well, I mean,
All right, we're going to do it.
Let's roll it. Let's roll it.
Let's roll it. Okay, I'm going to remove the comments or the whatever that is. Hold on, somebody. John Grantham.
Yeah. John Grantham got in the last minute.
Right at the last minute. All right, we're going to do it.
Let's roll it.
All right, here we go. Let me add this to the stage. And
hashtag Steeple Ridge. Oh,
here we go.
It's rolling. Kevin Halloran.
Kevin Halloran from St. Louis area, I believe.
Awesome.
You are the winner.
Congratulations, Kevin. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think.
Where is Kevin? Is he still here?
I don't know, Kevin. If you're in here, post a comment, okay? Anyway, I've got Kevin's information because I believe he is a past winner.
I'm absolutely sure he's a past winner.
No, he is.
So that means it's rigged. If he's a past winner, it's rigged. If he got to win and I didn't get to win, hey, there's Kevin right there. He said yes, he's excited.
All right, Kevin, shoot me a message or so I can get your address because I do not actually possess this bottle. I'm going to have to order it and then it'll get sent to you. So get with me with your address. Pat?
Right there.
Man, I
bourbon
appreciate
legacy.
it. We really rigged. Look at this. Rigged.
Well, I mean, I didn't win, so it is obviously rigged.
They're always rigged. We're always
That's
rigged.
right.
Pat, we appreciate you being on. We deep dived and learned a lot. And you know what? We didn't ask but about 3 of our questions that we had stacked
I
up
told
for
you guys to give me the hook.
Do we need to ask Roger's question even though Roger's not here?
Yeah, we can ask Roger's question. All right.
Okay,
So
go
you
ahead,
want to
Craig.
go ahead? Well,
No,
I was just going to say, Roger always asks every guest a final question, and it's if you're looking for one bottle, what is that one bottle that you're always looking for and you're ready to pull the trigger and purchase anytime you see that bottle?
Well, I'll tell you what. I live in Iowa. It's a control state, so you know what? I'm a Weller fan. I'm a big Weller fan. That's a weeded bourbon. I love a good weeded bourbon. If I can get the higher end stuff, I'm going to pull the trigger on it anytime. But I know it's lost a little bit of its tradition just because of the way the industry had fell. But they were, that was the Stitzel Weller. That was the heartbeat of the Pappy Van Winkle, right? And just I'm not saying that's the Pappy's the best whiskey I ever had, but you know what? It's something that it's a prized possession, simply because of the legacy that they have. And if I can find a good bottle of Weller, green is okay. If I can get orange or red, man, I'm pulling the trigger on that right now. I'll buy the
Well,
store.
all you have to do now is go to Buffalo
orange
Trace.
and red. Did I say yellow? Orange and red. Yeah. Sorry.
All you have to do is go to Buffalo Trace now, because 107 is now in their lineup of their daily allotments. So
Yes,
it used to be, used to just be Eagle Rare,
Blanton's,
Eggs,
Special
Taylor,
Reserve.
Blanton's.
Yeah.
Now you can get the 107. So it's I'm like you, Pat. I never if I see a bottle of 107 for a good price, even if I have 5 bottles of it, I'm gonna grab another one just in case.
I mean, that's what I'm a big fan of Four Roses, the single barrels. I like they do a lot of what we do with the. As far as I'm talking about nationwide big companies. There you go. The single barrel bottle. I love the different the yeast. I like that story and what they do with that, and so I like to be able to sample their different selections that they have with their different yeasts, because that's a lot of the same thing that we do. But there's a lot of great craft distillers that I like to give a try too. So if I'm buying, for the most part, I'm buying craft, but being in a control state like Iowa, a lot of that stuff is hard to come by as far as the the Wellers, things like that. They just don't like to send it here, just because of the high taxation. Going to raise their margins are lower, and so that's where that's the bourbon I fell in love with before I started before I even thought about doing something like this. And when I drank Weller, and that's when I started researching this, and and then all of a sudden it became, instead of why should we do this? Why should we do this? It all of a sudden became, why not? Why not do this? And that was my, I guess my gateway drug. How about that? That brought me to it.
That'll work. Pat, thanks for being on. Maybe we can get you back on here in the next,
Absolutely.
I don't know, year from now or something, touch back and see what's going on and go from there.
You guys give me a holler. I hope you guys bigger and better. I hope you guys continue to grow. Like I said,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you guys having me on, and let me share our story.
I
Yeah,
appreciate you
absolutely.
being on. Everyone, go check out lonelyoakdistillery.com, and you can order your bottles there and everything else. So go check them out. Thanks, Pat.
Cheers, gentlemen. Take care.
Hey, cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Corn. All right. Good job, guys. Hey, Will, do you want to do some trivia?
Sure, let's do some trivia. Why not?
I know you just want to see the little
I
trivia
love,
thing there.
yeah, I love the little trivia cartoon.
You
Makes me
know,
look young.
maybe we could put that on the back of a T-shirt or something.
Well, we might could, but
Trivia
I don't
with
know if I'm ready
Jill.
to have people walk around with my face on the back of their T-shirt.
Oh
So.
my goodness! I think
All right, here we go. Craig's going to throw a question up here in just a minute, and let's see what we're going to do. Right now, it's the trivia blank screen. So if anybody can guess the question, put that in the comments. What is the first question going to be? So, what are the 4 main grains commonly used to make bourbon? Is it corn, rye, spelt, barley? Corn, barley, wheat, rice? Corn, wheat, rice, millet? Corn, barley, oats, or rye? So, what 4 grains are most commonly used to make bourbon? So, we've got D's and B's right now. D's and B's. Corn, wheat, barley, rye is what Larry Voss says. D's and B's. Anybody want to go for A? Anybody want to pick spelt? That sounds like fun. I'm not sure what it is, but how about oats? Anybody ever had any oat whiskey? Let's go for that. D. James Caldwell's going for D. Justin went with D. So let's. Oh, oops. See, we've got some changing answers here now. Come on. I can't keep up with it that much. Jeff Castle says A. Martin Cox says A. Let's see. What is our answer going to be? Will it be A, B, C, or D? It is A. If you said A, corn, wheat, rye, and barley. Wait a minute. Now this is just all jacked up. So corn, rye, wheat, and barley is actually, man, I don't know, Craig. This is wrong. This is wrong. Is it none of the above? Oh, anyway, we rig these answers sometimes. So let's move on to the next one. Spelt is wheat. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe so. Maybe spelt should be wheat. Say E, John Grantham. I like that. Yeah. Ernest Peacock. It is rigged. I feel like I've been taken advantage of here. All right. Question number 2. What is the main difference between whiskey with no E and whiskey with an E? Is it age, grain type, a geographic spelling convention, or the ABV percentage? What is the main difference between whiskey with no E and whiskey with an E? Everybody says C, geographic spelling convention. I mean, are you sure it's not age? I'm not sure. Could be the ABV percentage. Nobody wants to say anything other than C. No, nobody wants to go with Bravo grain type. Craig, you might as well throw the answer up. Everybody's copying off of each other. And you are all correct. It is the geographic spelling convention. That sounds like some kind of meeting or something. I don't know, a huge spelling bee or something. Let's see what the next question is. After Kentucky, what state produces the most amount of whiskey? Is it Texas? That's a big state. They could probably make a lot of whiskey. How about Indiana? Tennessee or Missouri? Justin says E, all of the above. I don't know. Let's see. Everybody's saying B's. Everybody likes Indiana. Nobody wants to go with Texas. Everybody's saying C and B. So Indiana or Tennessee. Oh, Priscilla says Texas. Thank you for throwing that out there. I think you're probably wrong, but what the heck? Is it A, B, C, or D? Texas, Indiana, Tennessee, or Missouri? Let's see. We got a pretty good range of answers here. Mostly, though, people are saying B and C. So it's either Indiana or Tennessee. What do you say, Craig? Tennessee. Tennessee is actually the answer. So, interesting answer. John, you were close. I feel your pain. What's the next one? Which historical figure is credited with popularizing the sour mash process? Elijah Craig, Dr. James Crow, E.H. Taylor, Jacob Beam. Hey, lip service crew. It may be incorrect, but this is what's on the screen, so we're rolling with it. That's just kind of what we do here on the Bourbon Legends Chill Will Rocco's Trivia. So, which historical figure is credited with popularizing the sour mash process? Elijah Craig, James Crow, E.H. Taylor, or Jacob Beam? Everybody is saying, for the most part, either James Crow or Jacob Beam. So who would it be? Let's see. We've got one person that says Elijah Craig. Looks like there's nobody who wants to say E.H. Taylor Jr. So Brian says B, James Crow. Keith P says B, James Crow. Lip Service Crew says D, Jacob Beam. Let's see what the answer is. It is Dr. James Crow. So if you said B, you were correct. Let's see. Do we have another question? Yes. Which whiskey category I can't talk. Which whiskey category legally permits used cooperage in the United States? Is it straight bourbon, Tennessee whiskey, American single malt, or American light whiskey? So basically, what kind of whiskey can use a barrel again? Let's see. B, D, C. Show me the proof says it's American single malt. I kind of agree with you on that, but a lot of people are saying American light whiskey. So we all know it's not straight bourbon because you just got to have fresh, new white oak casks that can't be used, right? So what about Tennessee whiskey? Can they use barrels again? A lot of people saying C and D. It's pretty tight between those two. Looks like you got a 50-50 toss up here. Let's show them the answer, Craig. What's it going to be? American light whiskey. American light whiskey can use cooperage, cooperages in the United States. So they can use Ernest Peacock, technically C and D. Yeah, I kind of agree with you because single malt doesn't have the same Chill Will Rocco's Trivia. We just go with what's on the screen. We don't know if we're right or not.
Look. I'm no expert in trivia, and since Will was busy at work today, and I had a little bit of opportunity to make up the questions, I just asked ChatGTP to give me multiple choice questions, and I picked out the ones I thought would be the toughest. So if you don't like it, please submit your own questions to me, and I will put them up next week.
Here we go. That is an excellent idea. I'm going to throw the email out there, Craig.
There you go.
And if you have a trivia question for Chill Will Rocco's Trivia, send it to the bourbonlegendsmedia@gmail.com, and maybe we'll use it.
That's right. I mean, I'm always looking for something without having to put too much thought into it.
That's kind of the whole purpose of this show, is not to put too much thought into anything.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we didn't have to put much thought into anything tonight. I mean, he answered most of the questions that we had right from the get-go before we ever asked them. So then we just had to, just follow Pat's lead. You know what, from this end of doing it, as a host of a show, it's so much better when you have a guest who is knowledgeable, who is willing to talk and who is passionate than somebody who you get in here and they don't want to be here and they don't have much of a personality, and you're sitting here trying to pry it out of them. Much, much better.
Now, so Tracy's saying Pat carried the show for us. So
Oh,
I mean,
no doubt he did. He was very good. You know, it
oh, okay.
almost you kind of get. I mean, yeah, he definitely was a great guest. You do have that one problem though, where it's like, you know, sometimes the segue, there's a guest will say something at a certain point, and you would just like to be able to cut them off and
Mhm.
segue right into your next question. And I'm not going to say that did or didn't happen tonight, but it did happen tonight. There was an occasion or so where it's like, please just pause long enough that I can jump in and get that other question in. But
So,
hey,
Justin says we need to be ready for Tuesday night. I mean,
hey, I'm ready, man. I'm ready to talk Cajun stuff. That's what I'm ready for.
but so the thing is, what am I going to talk about? Because I don't know nothing.
I know plenty about Cajun atmosphere and
Well,
life.
I tell you what, Colonel Craig in Bourbon, the Colonel Bourbon Santa, Colonel, you just gonna carry the show Tuesday night. Is what I'm gonna say.
I guess I'll just talk about
Just
P
talk about it.
row. We'll talk about P rows and
Well, I know
we'll
what
talk
P
about
rows are.
gumbo.
I know what gumbo is.
Red beans and rice. Not like Roger. Roger says he puts. What did he say he puts in his red beans and rice? Oh, it's something weird.
Yeah,
Barbecue or something. I'm like, no.
Something northern. Yeah,
That
yeah.
doesn't
So
that doesn't go in gumbo,
so
Look at
so
here. It's like, I don't know, should we even be on this show? Hold on, where is it? Roger Randall says, right, nice. Priscilla says, y'all do need to be ready. Well, hell, we ain't never been on this show before. How are we supposed to be ready if we never done it? How come they were called po' boys, Tracy? Do you know why they were called po' boys?
I guess because po' boys ate them.
Oh, Roger, yeah, because they were cheap enough a po' boy could eat them. Roger says he puts crawfish in his red beans and rice.
Well, I mean, it. Yeah, you could do that.
You could do that.
You could do that.
It's not traditional.
Yeah. What about some pastelaia though? You got some pastelaia and white beans?
Oh.
You ever do that?
Oh my! Look at no, I don't eat pasta that much, but look here, just show up and find out. Oh, now, boy, if we treated our guests the way they're treating us, we probably having no shows.
Well, you know what though, I can deal with that because I really am just best just showing up unprepared and just doing whatever. When I was in college, some of the best grades I got on tests is when I showed up without studying.
There you go.
So,
I mean,
anyway.
I'm not gonna study anything, but I can bullshit my way through most things.
Well, I bet it's going to be a fun time, no matter whether we prepare or not. So I'm looking forward to it.
And if for some reason we get in and over our heads, we'll just cut the damn feed and we'll tell them we had technical difficulties.
I mean, we're known for having difficulties on our show, so why wouldn't that carry over on somebody else's show?
That's right.
I just hope the cat doesn't attack me again.
I'm telling you, that made for some of the best TV. Can we go back to this one more time?
Yeah,
I just
you bet.
feel like I just feel not like I need to hawk this one more time.
I think
there's a lot of people that I personally know that has not gotten this bottle, which I think they should. I think they're going to be sorely disappointed if they do not get this bottle. And like I said, you have the rest of the tonight and you have all night tomorrow until midnight. Then the sales will be cut off. This is a great pour, actually. If you guys missed last Friday night's impromptu show, we had Devin on and Matt Carter from Old Glory, and Matt will tell you this was a special barrel that they didn't really want to sell. They wanted to keep it for themselves, and we were privileged enough that, you know, well, we got this barrel. We picked it. You know, they were kind of hoping that we would pick one of the other picks and not
Yeah.
this one. That's their fault. They should never put it in there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. So look, do us a favor. Go and buy this bottle, please. We want to be able to keep doing store picks and barrel picks and whatnot. And like I said, next one up is Hard Truth. If you guys support us, we'll keep doing this stuff. If you don't, the money that we making off of this is no good. It's not enough to even buy a I was going to say a stick of gum, but I don't even know if you could buy a stick of gum anymore. But
Well, I
anyway,
haven't seen the first penny out of anything. I mean, a matter of fact, I'm paying just to be here. I send my Patreon bill in every
yeah,
month.
thank
So.
you, I appreciate that.
And
I know.
unfortunately, it looks like I'm going to have to keep that one bottle I was going to give away because it doesn't look like I'm going to make it to 100 subscribers by the end of tomorrow.
Really?
So,
I thought it was by
yeah.
the end of the month.
Well, we keep changing this now. It was last Friday, and then it was this Friday, and now you're talking about the end of the month. What's it going to be, Craig?
Oh my goodness.
What's it going to be?
Anyway,
Imrod says D. So whatever selection D is.
Michael, what are you talking about?
Well,
Michael is lagging here. He's lagging behind.
He was answering the question. It was answer D. We didn't get to that one though.
No. He's right though. It was D. All right, folks. Okay, hold on. So
yes.
Do I scan the bottle and shipping and you know what it's for? Absolutely, we know what it's for. That is our Bourbon Legends Venmo. There's nothing else going on right now other than this bottle sale. So you do not even have to put what it's for. I'll know what it's for. I'm the one that's every morning I'll go into my office and I will see if there was anybody that bought. Monday, I guess I'm going to be lonely at 7:00 when I go into work because I'm not going to have anything to look and see. But if I do not know you, if you're not part of our Discord page or whatnot, it would be appreciated if you would put your address on there if it's not going to be muled, so that way we can streamline it a little bit better. But yeah, all you got to do is hold your phone up there, and it'll take you right to that page. Will, do you have anything else to say? You know what? We didn't even really miss Roger, did we?
No, I mean, I think Roger's maybe just an unnecessary piece of the pie right here. What do you think?
Well, he is a big piece of he's a big piece of something. I don't know if it's the pie.
No, I'm happy for Roger. Roger's celebrating his anniversary with his lovely wife in Florida. They're having a great time. It's good for him to get away, and I'm just happy for him and glad I could stand in for him.
And it's always good to not have to do the show. Show me the proof. Anticipated release date. It's being released next Saturday, March 7th, at the distillery there, or muled back to Memphis area. Otherwise, if it's being shipped to you, you're going to have to give us another week or so to, get boxes and everything put together and it packaged up and all that. It's going to take a little bit longer to do, but I mean, it will be within, I would say, middle of the month of March when we get those things out to everybody. So Martin Cox wants to know, what is the date for the distillery takeover? Saturday, March 7th, 10:30 in the morning, I believe, or 11:30 in the morning. We're going to go and we're going to get some eye openers there at Old Glory at the restaurant. We're going to have brunch, and then we're going to go over and we're going to do a distillery tour, which I'm going to tell you, there is really no distillery tour. It's basically you go in there and you start drinking a little bit and you start drinking a little bit and
you drink a little bit more,
a little bit more. But no, we're going to have a good time over there. And
And one
Anyway.
important note, and I know we've talked about this before, but just because we're going to, or well, I can't go, I'm working, but just because y'all are going to the distillery to pick the bottles up does not mean you can buy the bottle there. They will not have it for sale.
It will not be for sale. When I turn those numbers in on Saturday, they're going to start bottling our amount that we bought. There will not be one extra bottle when you get there. It will
And
be gone.
if I believe Matt Carter and how much he likes this barrel, I figure he's going to put as many bottles back for himself as he possibly can.
Well, he said he was going to buy some last week. He said, I'll have to buy some of these.
Yeah.
You know, they don't get to take stuff home. They got to actually buy it.
Well,
too.
that's true. Yeah. But still, they're not going to be releasing it there.
He has a better shot of getting it without going through the Bourbon Legend. So I can say that.
Well, I mean, he kind of works there, so.
Yeah, you know, he's kind of an important guy.
Mhm.
Anyway, folks, jump on, really help us out because we want to do more of these, but we can only squeeze so much blood out of a turnip. If you guys don't support us, we can't do any of these. And it's just as quick and easy as that. No bullshit, no myth, no hype. That's just the way it's going to be.
Mhm.
And like I said, I'll just tell you right now, week after Easter, I will be in Indiana doing a hard truth pick. So you can put that on your radar if you like hard truth, or even if you don't. I hope you support us. Our goal this year was to do 4 picks. I don't know if we're going to get 4, but we're definitely going to have 2. And then there's going to be that toasted turkey. So that might be the 3rd or 4th. I don't know. Just depends. So,
Yeah.
as it says in the old business, you know, scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. So thank you, Tracy. Tracy just bought one more. That's the kind of gal I like.
Yeah,
We're going to have fun
BTN
too.
Reviews got one too, so appreciate y'all
Good.
picking up bottles tonight.
Absolutely. Folks, I know we've got some new Patreon members. I appreciate it. We're going to roll these final credits, and if you don't see your name on there, it's not that I don't recognize that you are a Patreon member, but my computer at work is on. It's dead. I can't do any graphics. That's why you've not seen any videos posted on the Bourbon Legends page. It's just dead. So I'm supposed to be getting a new one on the 4th or 5th of March, and then I will get that put back up. But we do appreciate you supporting the Bourbon Legends.
Yeah. Thanks for buying bottles, Donna.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely.
All right,
Everybody keep it up. We'll have a good day at work tomorrow. I got to go be on a tractor at 7:30 in the morning, not planting corn, but spreading out dirt. So I'm going to be offline for most of the morning, which is kind of a good thing. I'm going to pop my earbuds in and I'm going to drive and, play like I'm a construction worker. And
that sounds like fun.
I get to be on the lake. And this year, when you come up for the 4th of July, all down in front of the lake is going to be grass and irrigated. And
oh, nice.
Yeah, Dad's wanting to spend a little bit of money. So hey, there goes my inheritance.
You just buy whiskey with it anyway.
Yeah, probably. All right, folks. We'll see you guys next Tuesday on the podcast show. That's real shot. I still can't say it. All right. See you guys. Take care and thanks.
Have a good one.
For the stories we've told of barrels and bottles and whiskey gold, from grain to glass, through fire and flame, every pour's got a legend's name. So raise them high until next time, for we are the legends. We are the legends.